Okay, so thinking about going for that credit analyst job, that's awesome. You know it's a field where, man, your brain power can really shake things up in finance. We've been going through RoleCatcher's insights on this, and wow, they've got this interview prep down to a T.
It's really interesting, actually, how RoleCatcher uses AI to give you an advantage. It's not just vague advice. They really look at the job description to help you totally nail your
Right,
answers.
like having a secret weapon or something. But before we get into all the AI stuff, let's be sure we know exactly what a credit analyst actually does. Kind of like a financial detective, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
Digging into financials, trying to figure out if someone's good for a loan.
Yeah, you're basically assessing risk. Can this person or company even handle this debt? Are there any red flags in their financial past? It's all about putting the pieces together, seeing the story behind the numbers, and using that to advise lenders.
And it's not just about the numbers themselves, right? There's a big communication aspect to it, too. You've got to explain your findings really clearly.
Absolutely. Like, imagine explaining a complex analysis to a loan officer who has to decide fast. Being able to communicate super clearly is so important.
So we have a good idea of the role. Now let's get into the interview process, which is where RoleCatcher comes in. They've got a bunch of sample questions, and I think it would be helpful to go over a few important ones and really break down how to answer them.
Sure, that sounds good. Where do you want to start?
Let's start with that classic. What inspired you to become a credit analyst? Sounds easy, but I've heard it can be tricky.
Yeah, it's tempting to go with those generic answers like, I'm good with numbers, but they're looking for real passion, you know?
So how do you recommend answering this in a way that really hits home?
Think about what really excites you about this kind of work. Is it the challenge of evaluating risk, the chance to work with certain businesses, or maybe you're just fascinated by how financial markets work?
Interviewers can see right through a canned response. Authenticity is key.
Exactly. And if you can, bring in a specific example, maybe a class you took, a project you did, even a book that got you interested. It adds so much more depth and shows you're genuinely into it.
It's like you're letting them in on your thought process, showing them you're not just there for the paycheck, you know.
Yeah.
You're there because you're really interested.
Precisely. Okay, let's go to another common one. What do you see as the main responsibilities of a credit analyst? Again, it's tempting to just repeat the job description.
Right, but that won't make you stand out.
Yeah.
So how do you suggest going beyond the obvious there?
Instead of listing tasks, think about grouping those responsibilities into themes. For example, analyzing financial health. This is where you can talk about your knowledge of financial ratios, trends, and benchmarks.
Showing them you understand the core of the role using data to see if someone can repay a loan.
Exactly. Another theme could be managing risk. This is where you show you can spot those potential issues, assess creditworthiness, and make sure everything's following the rules.
Painting the full picture, showing you understand the big picture and not just the individual tasks.
Right. And don't be afraid to get specific. RoleCatcher emphasizes how important it is to use real or even made-up examples to illustrate your points.
Oh, good point. Like, let's say a company has an amazing credit score, but their whole industry is going downhill. How would you handle that?
Exactly. That shows you can think critically and connect the dots between the data and what's happening in the real world.
Okay, this is great. We're getting a feel for how to really nail these questions. And this is where RoleCatcher's AI can really help, right?
Absolutely. Just imagine a tool that analyzes the specific job description, sees what skills they're looking for, and then gives you suggestions on how to tweak your answers to highlight those skills.
That's some next level prep. It's like having a career coach right there in your pocket, guiding you through it all.
And don't forget their AI feedback. You can practice your answers, get feedback, and improve how you deliver them until you're radiating confidence.
Okay, I'm convinced. Let's tackle a few more of these questions. How about we dive into that after a quick break? All right, so let's jump back into these interview questions. I'm really curious about the ones that focus on your analytical skills. You know, the ones that really test your financial knowledge.
Ah, yes. The ones that really put you to the test. A classic one is, how do you analyze financial statements?
Yeah, that's a big one. I bet they want more than just a list of equations, right?
Yeah, definitely. It's about showing how you think, how you interpret those numbers, like what are the key ratios or trends you look at, and most importantly, how do you connect those to make smart credit decisions?
So instead of just saying, I'd calculate the debt-to-equity ratio, you want to explain what that actually tells you about a company.
Exactly. You could say a really high debt-to-equity ratio might mean the company relies too much on borrowed money, which could be risky if their profits drop.
It's about seeing the bigger picture, right?
Right. Don't be afraid to show off what you know about specific industry metrics, too. For example, if you're interviewing for, say, commercial real estate lending, you might mention things like the loan-to-value ratio or the debt service coverage ratio.
Showing them you get the ins and outs of credit analysis in that specific area.
Exactly. And this is where RoleCatcher's AI can be a game changer. Imagine you're practicing your answer, and the AI gives you feedback in real time, pointing out where you can improve or add more concrete examples.
It's like having a personal finance tutor right there with you. You can tweak your answers until they're perfect.
Mm.
Okay, we've covered analyzing financial statements. What about assessing credit risk? That feels like the core of being a credit analyst.
Absolutely. And it goes way beyond just looking at credit scores. A good credit analyst knows that there's more to it than that.
So when they ask, how do you assess credit risk?
Mhm.
How do you suggest going deeper than the obvious?
Well, there's the credit history, of course, but you've also got to think about things like the borrower's debt-to-income ratio, their job history, even their spending habits.
It's about looking at their entire financial picture.
Exactly. And don't forget about the outside factors. What's going on in the economy? Are interest rates climbing? Is the borrower's industry struggling?
It's like connecting the dots between their individual situation and what's happening in the world around them.
Exactly. And that's something else RoleCatcher is great at. Their platform gives you insights into things like industry trends, economic indicators, even regulatory changes that could affect those credit decisions.
So you're not going in blind, you've got all this up-to-date knowledge. It's like having a cheat sheet for the financial world.
In a way, yeah. It's about using technology to boost your knowledge and make those smarter decisions.
This is all fantastic advice. Okay, so we've hit on some of the technical skills, but we can't forget about those behavioral questions that interviewers love, the ones that make you think back to your experiences and how you handled tough situations.
Ah, yes, those dreaded behavioral questions. They can seem intimidating, but the key is to be prepared and have a structured approach.
And I think RoleCatcher has some tips on tackling those too, right?
Absolutely. They recommend using the STAR method: situation, task, action, result as a framework for structuring those answers clearly and concisely.
Okay, tell me more about how this STAR method works.
Let's say they ask, tell me about a time you had to make a tough credit decision. Using the STAR method, you'd start by describing the situation.
Okay, setting the scene. What's next?
Then you outline your role in that situation. What were you responsible for?
Got it. And then the action part, where you really get to shine.
Right. You explain what you did, how you approached the problem, any challenges you faced.
And finally, the outcome. What happened as a result of your decision?
Exactly. Did you hit your goals? What did you learn? This structured approach helps you tell a compelling story that highlights your problem-solving skills.
That's brilliant. The STAR method takes the guesswork out of those open-ended questions.
And RoleCatcher takes it even further. They have sample STAR stories tailored specifically to credit analysis, giving you a head start on creating your own.
That's amazing. Okay, we've covered a lot. Any final thoughts on acing those credit analyst interviews? So we've talked about a lot, from analyzing financials to using the STAR method for those behavioral questions. But before we finish up, there's one more thing I'm thinking about.
What's that?
It's great to have those standard interview questions down, but it feels like something's missing. How can someone really show they're interested in that specific company?
Oh, that's so important. It's not just about getting any credit analyst job, right?
Yeah.
You have to convince them why their company is the one for you.
So it's not just about your skills, but showing how those skills fit with what the company's all about.
Exactly. Before any interview, do your homework. What kind of lending do they do? What's their culture like? Do their values match yours?
Look, you're trying to see if you'd be a good fit, personality-wise, too.
Exactly. Find those connections you can genuinely talk about in the interview. Maybe they're big on community development, or maybe they're known for being innovative with their lending.
And then when they ask, why do you want to work here? You've got a good, genuine answer ready.
Right. Instead of something generic, you can say, I was really impressed with your commitment to, say, sustainable investing. I'd love to be part of a team that's making a difference.
It shows them you've done your research,
Yeah.
that you're not just looking for any job, you're looking for the right fit.
Exactly. It comes down to being prepared, being yourself, and having that extra something that RoleCatcher gives you. Their AI insights and feedback can really help you land that dream job.
This has been awesome. I feel like we've given everyone a crash course in acing those credit analyst interviews.
Definitely. Remember, confidence is key. Believe in yourself, Show them what you've got, be passionate, and you'll do great.
And preparation is everything. With the right tools, like RoleCatcher, you can walk into that interview feeling ready to impress.
Good luck out there. We're rooting for you.
And let us know how it goes. We love hearing success stories. Until next time, keep learning and keep diving deep.